Tell us then a bit more about how your interest for software and different software then peaked after now you've diagnosed yourself, so you've now got the right meds. How did you then kind of say, right, okay, today's a new day, this is what I'm going to do, and these are the software? Did it happen like that, or did it just naturally happen as you kind of went along?
I actually had become a BIM manager about 6 years before I was diagnosed. Um, so I mean, I had already built the kind of the natural workarounds to get to kind of to beat ADD. Mostly, at least at work. I was great at work. Because I was so stimulated by what I was doing that it didn't affect me as much. I'm sure one of the things that I did do was interrupt people all the time, because that's one of the symptoms is you'll just interrupt people and you'll never stop talking. You'll probably see that a little bit here, right? It's early. I just took my meds. Um, but no, so I was already kind of doing well with my career. But there's always things, and maybe I'll segue this into Cloud Manager a little bit as a really good example of a situation, and this isn't ADD related, but it's so when the pandemic hit, a lot of companies started moving towards ACC BIM 360. We were definitely in that boat. And prior to that, everything was on our central, network. Backups weren't a problem. So no big deal. It was being backed up automatically. With BIM 360, we needed to publish these models every single night so that we had a backup point. And this was before, I think, Revit 23, when they introduced the ability to download every single sync, which is a little bit ridiculous. But, well, we have a lot of projects. I mean, last year, I'd say we had maybe close to 500 projects that were Revit. We had more than 1,000 in total, but, take 500 projects and say an average of 2.5 disciplines. So that's 2.5 models per project, we're at a lot of models. And I do not have the time every night at 9:00, because that's when we needed to do it for reasons I won't get into, to go and publish every single model manually. And so I started looking for solutions, and Cloud Manager was one of the solutions. So we, that allows me to set up a task that runs automatically at night, that publishes all the models, and what it take me 5 minutes to set that task up, and maybe 5 minutes every month to make sure that it's working, versus a full-time job for somebody who would just be sitting there clicking and clicking and clicking. And again, that is brainless work. I'd rather pay somebody to do something important, like look at a project and make sure that it's going to be built and designed properly, than pressing a button to publish a model.
Yeah.
So
the transitioning from, making the most out of something negative during the pandemic, we needed to kind of explore new technology. I was one of those who is, on the ACC BIM 360 side. And I thought, wow, there's a great gap in the market. This is a part of the jigsaw that was missing for many, many years. And it's really connected people together, even when they couldn't be connected. So I thought that was great. But looking at the Naviate Cloud Manager solution that you've just said about, taking away those laborious jobs, it's jobs that we don't even realize is laborious. You just think, okay, I'll click there, 6 times a day or whatever, however many times, like you said, and you have to set it up at unsociable hours and all of these things that you have to do. I think it's incredible that how technology can, reduce down those tasks. And like you say, it's a full-time job. But did you see people coming out of work because of that, because of technology replacing, those menial tasks, would you say? Or would you say it's actually helped them, like you say, about you can focus on your design once again?
Yeah, no, I can't, nobody at our company was, nobody's been replaced by the technology. I mean, it really, everything that
that's a fear that many people have,
Oh, yeah, no.
As they see tech.
It's a legitimate fear. I mean, who knows what the future holds. And I think that, hopefully it's a healthy level of fear, the healthy level that keeps you getting better. I do need to actually still try to improve myself so that I'm better than the AI.
And the AI software.
Yeah, I would usually think of myself like RoboCop, if you guys see the movie. I want to be an enhanced human using AI, rather than thinking as AI as competition, like in Terminator. So I'm kind of the viewpoint of RoboCop versus the Terminator, where, I would rather be the bionic cop or the person who is now enhanced because I have AI and can do tasks much better, instead of fearing that AI is going to take over the world and replace us all because...
Yeah. So, Pratik, I can imagine you there with a contact lens. That's like, the AI side of things. And I can imagine you saying, right, okay, I think this, but what do you think, left eye? And the left eye will then come in and say something. Yeah, I that would be so great.
I think it would have to have the name of Jeeves. You can ask Jeeves.
Oh, ask Jeeves. Yes. Ask Jeeves. Gosh, I've not heard Ask Jeeves for ages. Do you use that in the US a lot?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Was it not like a search engine? It was a search engine, right? Yeah. It didn't last long. I don't know. It must be there. I'll have to ask Google to find out if Jeeves is still there. But anyway, it's all good. Okay, so that led you to the technical side, just kind of looking at your journey. Tell us a bit more about the work that you actually do, because it's a unique market, isn't it? You talk about grain handling and things like that.
Yeah, VAs, we're pretty well spread out in what we do. We do, I won't say it's basic, but, we do commercial, government buildings, and a lot of normal buildings, but one of our, some of our specialties are grain handling. So that's the general arrangement discipline of our company, which is essentially, it's kind of like a mixture of food processing, sort of, and mechanical. It's just essentially the design of product flow from we do a lot of rail work. So it could be from a rail to storage, or to processing to storage, and then the offloading might be back into trains, might be in the trucks, or even we do ships. Port facilities. So, and it can be grain, it can be flour. Happy coworker.
Happy coworker.
There's a window right here, so I get to see everybody.
That's perfect.
Yeah. In fact, the guy that just walked by talking about really cool technology is in the middle of implementing a new software for us that does like realistic physics simulation of grain running through spouts.
Wow.
And so they can optimize the flow of the grain without damaging the grain. It's pretty awesome, and it's ridiculous how long the software takes. His computer looks amazing because it's one of those. It's a really high-end Alienware. So everybody walks by his desk and like, "Do you really need that?" And he's like, "Yes, I do. I'm simulating grain right now." Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of one of our specialties. Rail design, because we do have a civil group. They're not necessarily BIM. It's part of BIM, right? It's still 3D. It still has information in the elements, but it's not Revit. So whatever, to hell with them. Just kidding. If they're listening to this, I'm just
there's no rivalry at all. One minute he's like really praising one colleague, the next minute he's like, "Oh, don't talk to the other team."
No, they're just still in
But
CAD.
the interesting thought is, your company's handling so many different projects, right? So what are the different softwares? That kind of comes to my mind, right? Because we usually talk about Revit, talk about Navisworks, the usual, because we are from the buildings industry. But thinking about all the different ones that are out there that we might not even have heard of, right? Like the software that's being made by your company for the grain flow is interesting, which is obviously proprietary. But then what are the other softwares that are being used and that you're maybe involved in, or maybe you've heard of, that are being used?
Yeah, so along with Revit, as you'd mentioned, Navisworks. Pretty much the whole, like a large amount of Autodesk software. So we use Recap because we do laser scanning, AutoCAD because we have to, unfortunately, still. Along with that, Civil 3D for our civil group, Plant 3D for our pipe processing, and then. I think we do have we have some CADWorks licenses, which is kind of like Plant 3D, but just made by, I think, Intergraph is the company, or Hexagon. And then, a lot of third-party add-ons for Revit. We probably have 15 to 16 different third parties that we work with. as I've been told, we get all the toys for not a huge company, but we're blessed with a good leadership and IT department that's willing to, as long as we can provide documentation showing that's going to be helpful and it's worth the money, they're totally willing to go down and purchase these for us to use.
I think that's incredible, for it to come down from leadership, for you not to feel restricted or, in a box. I think that's amazing that you've got all of these toys that you can play with that will only further what you can do, like your colleague with the grain simulation. I think that's a great way for us to kind of adapt to the environment that we're in and make use of what we do have.
Yeah, and to go a couple other softwares. I mean, we do rendering, so we use Lumion and Enscape, which again is one of the third-party add-ins. But we use Lumion. We have 2 VR headsets in the office that don't get used as much as I wish they would, but the people who do use them quite a bit. For client walkthroughs and just trying to look for tight spaces and designs. So,
do you have a particular setup for your headsets and things like that? Or
we haven't. I mean, the ones that we bought they're probably about 6 years old, so they're HTC Vives.
Okay.
I mean, our Quest 2 person, so.
Oh, I mean, yeah, those weren't out when we got ours. Yeah. So it's probably time for an upgrade if enough people are using it. But since not a lot of people are using it and they haven't complained, we're not going to spend the money right now. But,
talking about all this different technology, right? One of the terms that I kept hearing since we got out of the pandemic was technology fatigue. Have you noticed any of that fatigue amongst your users? And have they ever told you, hey, Robert, you're giving me 15 add-ons, or maybe, you're happy you're using them, right? But is there someone else who's like, Robert, this is just too much. We're tired of using so many different add-ons. Maybe can we boil it down to a couple here and there? And is there a way to do it? Just a broad question asking about technology fatigue.
Yeah, no, definitely. There is that exists. We've kind of come to the conclusion that not everybody needs every add-on that we have. So, and it comes down also, I mean, partially it's that you have to kind of look at who needs what and make sure they have what they need. But also, and something that we haven't done as well as we could have is training the add-ons. That's actually, like, this year we're starting a training initiative, and one part of that is bringing people up to speed on all the different add-ons that we have, not just so that they know what's available to them, but then how to use each one and how we VAA would like them to use it. So I mean, again, we do have a lot of things, especially there's a lot of tools that we have that allow us to better deal with remote work. And those are things that can be confusing for people. But I mean, generally, I'd say everybody here has done a really good job of adopting it. But yes, no, I mean, it's certainly, the fatigue is there. So it's like mine and Dustin's job, who, again, he's my assistant, but he's an assistant BIM manager. That's his title. He earned that. He and I have to make sure that we are constantly reminding people how to use it, making sure they feel comfortable. So a lot of people, I think, have developed in that fatigue, have also developed the fear of the add-on and what it might do to their model. So if they don't know how to use it, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to touch that because I don't know what it's going to do. And I've done a lot of work, So do
you think the two relate? Does the fear relate with the feeling of overwhelmed as well? Because of these different, Pratik's question, say you got 15 different plugins or whatever. Do you think people feel overwhelmed, or is it the fear? Which one is it actually?
That's tough. I don't know. I can't say I've necessarily asked people. I would think that it's more the fear of breaking something than being overwhelmed. But I think overwhelmed, I mean, especially when you have too many ribbons, it can be that way. That's where the limiting features to who need it is important, which is hard. That's a whole different challenge with IT, and who gets what and how they get it, and how it's getting updated.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, sometimes, and again, this is a different type of learner, different type of personality. When seeing so much on one page, you just can't concentrate on anything. You just can't read, you can't draw, you can't focus, So again, I suppose it's if you need 15 different plugins, how do you then approach a user who cannot have 15 different plugins on their screen, and like you say, you kind of take it back and you learn knowing who needs to have the 15 and who just needs to have 2 of them, which is really super great.
I won't say it's basic, but we do commercial, government buildings, and I mean a lot of normal buildings. But one of our some of our specialties are grain handling. So that's the general arrangement discipline of our company, which is essentially it's kind of like a mixture of food processing, sort of, and mechanical. It's just essentially the design of product flow from we do a lot of rail work, so it could be from a rail to storage, or to processing to storage, and then the offloading might be back into trains, might be into trucks, or even we do ships. like port facilities. So and it can be grain, it can be flour. Happy coworker.
Happy coworker.
There's a window right here, so I get to see everybody.
That's perfect.
Yeah, in fact, the guy that just walked by talking about really cool technology is in the middle of implementing a new software for us that does like realistic physics simulation of grain running through spouts.
Wow.
And so they can optimize the flow of the grain without damaging the grain. It's pretty awesome, and it's ridiculous how long the software takes. His computer looks amazing because it's one of those, it's a really high-end Alienware, so everybody walks by his desk and like, do you really need that? And he's like, yes, I do. I'm simulating grain right now.
One of the terms that I kept hearing since we got out of the pandemic was technology fatigue. Have you noticed any of that fatigue amongst your users? And have they ever told you, hey, Robert, you're giving me 15 add-ons, or maybe, you're happy you're using them, right? But is there someone else who's like, Robert, this is just too much. We're tired of using so many different add-ons.
Actually, it's that you have to kind of look at who needs what and make sure they have what they need. But also, and something that we haven't done as well as we could have is training the add-ons. That's actually, like, this year we're starting a training initiative, and one part of that is bringing people up to speed on all the different add-ons that we have, not just so that they know what's available to them, but then how to use each one and how we, VA would like them to use it.
Sometimes, and again, this is a different type of learner, different type of personality. When seeing so much on one page, you just can't concentrate on anything. You just can't read, you can't draw, you can't focus, So again, I suppose it's if you need 15 different plugins, how do you then approach a user who cannot have 15 different plugins on their screen, And like you say, you kind of take it back and you learn knowing who needs to have the 15 and who just needs to have 2 of them.